Thousands of people claim to have seen UFOs in the sky, but most of these sightings are pretty easily debunked. But these UFO sightings might actually be real. Here are 15 UFO sightings that might actually be true. Number 15. U.S. Navy confirmation. One unexplained flying phenomenon was so remarkable that the U.S. Navy had no choice but to confirm that this event indeed showed a UFO, or as they prefer to call it, unidentified aerial phenomena. These incidents were encountered in 2004 and 2015, but the highly secretive and classified information was only made public in 2017. The U.S. Navy confirmation of the fast and quick aerial phenomena was just enough to validate UFO doubts in millions across the globe.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at him fly. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. Yeah, LNS, dude. Well, if there's a thing, it's rotated. It's rotated.
Number 14. Lebanon sighting. In 2008, a call came into 911 from a man claiming he saw an unidentified flying object in the air. Even though the emergency department had a few giggles at first,
there was a flying object in the area of Lebanon.
Once the policemen arrived at the scene, they saw something similar as well. Described as a large triangular shape in the sky that had 3 smaller aircrafts around it, the UFO that appeared in Lebanon, Illinois, was witnessed by 6 people who all recall the experience in an identical way.
Let's see if I could reacquire it again by the time I back.
Number 13. New York City footage. The city that never sleeps captured a truly magnificent event. In an 8-minute video shared on the news, multiple flying orbs are seen traversing through the clear day sky. As baffled New York City witnesses gathered around to spectate the extraordinary incident, many were quick to call it a UFO sighting. And while the officials claim they were just balloons hovering over the iconic Manhattan skylines, the proportions of the flying objects seemed to dictate otherwise. Number 12. Google Maps UFO. Everyone has tried once in their life to see their home from the Google Maps program. People of Texas were scouting through the streets of Jacksonville when they spotted a remarkable object in the sky. Google Maps captured an image that some could only call a UFO. Spotted above the landmark building, this flying object looked like a cartoon version of an alien ship come to life. And while the people of Jacksonville didn't witness a change in the usual setting, many were left wondering if it was the real thing. Number 11. Rob Chapman's video.
That is bizarre.
Rob Chapman, a musician and co-owner of Chapman Guitars, shared a video on his YouTube channel that received over 2.5 million views. The musician, who usually uploads guitar tutorials, couldn't help but share what he witnessed with his own eyes. In the video, 2 mysterious flying objects are seen slowly drifting through the gray skies. While some firework explosions were created, the vanishing and reappearing flying objects raised the question if it was actually a UFO the musician saw. Number 10. Manitoba sightings. One province of Canada that has made a name for itself as being a frequently visited place by UFOs is Manitoba. The central part of Canada has become a hotbed for UFO sightings, dating back to the 1820s. The skies of northern Canada are home to plenty of mysterious phenomena, but some were so noteworthy tales about the sighting are still told to this day. On May 19, 1967, Stefan Michalak, who was an amateur geologist at the time, was looking for quartz crystals near Falcon Lake when something strange happened suddenly. He saw a flock of geese run past him very quickly, as if they were running away from something. When Stefan looked up, he witnessed 2 glowing cigar-shaped objects in the sky. And while one soon flew away, the other landed on a rocky terrace nearby. Stefan decided to approach the flying object, assuming it was a U.S. military aircraft. But before he did, he took his time sketching out the mysterious plane. When Michalak came close to the object, he heard loud hissing noises coming from within. When he glanced inside, he only saw a panel of blinking lights before the doors closed. As the saucer rotated, the ship's exterior sprayed him with hot gas, leaving him with first-degree burns. The geologist was taken to a hospital for both physical and psychological evaluation. The doctors and psychiatrists were determined that Stefan was of sound mind and that he couldn't have hallucinated the event. To this day, neither the Canadian or the U.S. military has been able to explain the event. But a few years later, a piece of metal was recovered from the same Falcon Lake the UFO landed on. Number 9. 1997 Phoenix Lights. 23 years ago, on a normal March night in 1997, thousands of Phoenix, Arizona citizens saw something that looked unordinary, to say the least. The locals were initially glancing at the skies to get a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet, but instead they witnessed something they couldn't have even imagined. 5 bright orbs of light were hovering above the Phoenix skyline. The lights were arranged in such a formation that gave the impression of the orbs being attached to a wide V-shaped aircraft. This event quickly became the talk of the town, and over 2 decades later, it's recalled as the Phoenix Lights. The U.S. Air Force claimed these bright lights were actually flares dropped at the Goldwater Range, but the unusual arrangement in the sky is what leads the people of Arizona to think otherwise. The sightings were first witnessed at 3 p.m. and remained for over 24 hours. The numerous video footages that were captured by locals were later stabilized to showcase how the flying objects could not have been just flares. What makes this unusual case even more intriguing is the fact that the former Phoenix governor, Fife Symington, witnessed this event himself. He recalls these lights as not being of this world and could not belong to a military aircraft. Now, 23 years later and many book releases and TV specials about the Phoenix Lights, no one truly knows what happened that night on March 13, 1997.
Nobody has come up with anything logical.
Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Top 5s with notifications on. Number 8. Washington, D.C. Flap. It seemed like a regular hot July evening in 1952 until several large flying saucers appeared above the White House. Known as the Washington, D.C. Flap, this unexplainable event became the forefather of UFO sightings. From the initial event to several weeks later, thousands of humans and even professional pilots and radar operators reported mysterious objects streaking across the skies of the U.S. Capitol. These affairs caused a panic like no other. When President Harry Truman quietly called for answers from the highly classified UFO investigation team, Project Blue Book, Air Force officials released a statement that simply blamed the unusual weather. Credible witnesses and sources claimed the objects looked like deep orange spheres that had shades of rust all around the exterior. The fast-paced flying aircrafts were as silent as death, and many even reported floating lights around it. The UFO mania, of course, did not stop with the illogical explanation from the Air Force. Hundreds of conspiracy theories were created around the event, and many generations are still looking for plausible extraterrestrial explanations. Number 7. Eskimo footage. Another part of Canada that witnessed a strange object roaming through the night sky was Esquimalt, a municipality in the British Columbia district. One couple managed to quickly grab their cell phones and capture the night event that could only be described as a UFO sighting. Brian Cooper, a skeptic at heart, claims he had never witnessed something similar in his life. While the first sightings were reported at 8:30, one aircraft vanished shortly after, but the second remained above the Eskimo land. Cooper says the flying object had lights that spun in all different directions, and the aircraft itself was about the size of a Volkswagen car. The couple's neighbor also witnessed this event. Lynn Weaver, who grew up in military bases, claims that she had never seen anything quite like the aircraft in the night sky. The captured footage was later shown to a professor of astronomy, physics, and a drone expert, hoping for a logical explanation behind the video. And while both seem to agree it was a drone vehicle in the sky, neither of them are 100% sure of the fact, leaving room for some extraordinary theories in mind. Number 6. Westall UFO. The Zimbabwe UFO event wasn't the only sighting caught by schoolchildren. In April of 1966, almost 200 people, including young students and school teachers, saw a flying saucer in the sky. The flying object was gray with slight purple hues and was twice the size of a large car. While some say there was only one aircraft in the sky, many witnesses have actually claimed there were 3. As the interested and intrigued students gathered to watch the monumental affair, the airship quickly lifted up and disappeared in the sky. The school children and adults that had been part of this incident were told by the Australian officials not to give any comments to the media. Many were left to believe that the government was actually trying to bury this event and didn't want to add fuel to the fire. More than 50 years later, witnesses who were once young kids attending school are now grown adults who have come forward with their experience, all claiming it was a UFO. To this day, the 1966 Westall event remains the most witnessed daylight UFO sighting in history. Number 5. Caught on live newscast. While most UFO sightings are caught quickly by a shaky phone camera or leaked footage, this one paranormal event was captured on live TV. During the weather broadcast in June of 2018, the Buffalo weatherman Andy Parker was first to comment on the strange movement.
Did anybody see that thing go past? Did we just see a...
During what seemed to be a usual forecast, Andy quickly drives the viewer's attention at the sudden beam of light coming from the water. While he says it might have been a shooting star, many denied the theory, as shooting stars don't come up from the water. Apart from the strange ascendance from the water, users on social media noticed how the flying object curved as it went up into the sky. Some comments even suggest pausing the video for a better look at the UFO that takes the form of a disc or a cigar-shaped object. While no official comments have been made, it's always interesting to witness such an event during a live TV broadcast.
I will flip that in the next 20 minutes.
Number 4. Zimbabwe schoolchildren. Every child has an imagination so diverse and vast that no adult human can compete with. And while schoolchildren often play make-believe to pass the time of long school hours, one event that took place in 1994 was of no regular play. The children of the Ariel School in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, all saw a dish-shaped craft land behind the school. According to 60 young kids who have claimed to have seen the exact same event, 3 flying objects popped up in the sky momentarily, until they vanished and reappeared in different places. Some pupils even claim to have witnessed a man with rugby ball eyes walk out of the ship. But when the extraterrestrial being noticed the children, it soon ran away and the ship disappeared. These little witnesses were questioned for weeks after the initial incident. Many psychiatrists and journalists quickly appeared at the scene, all trying to debunk what actually happened that day. 35 out of the group were even taken aside to draw a picture of the incident. After a strenuous investigation, all came to the conclusion that these school kids were not lying, and that something extraordinary had actually happened. While many call it a mass hysteria episode, even more believe the children's story to be true. Number 3. Stephenville sightings. On an early cold January afternoon, more than 30 citizens of Stephenville, Texas reported something unique floating in the sky. The witnesses first saw beams of light arranged in a single horizontal line, and later forming parallel vertical lines across the sky. Even local newspaper reporters saw this strange occurrence, recalling how it was very intense with bright lights. Stephenville locals believe this event was reminiscent of the notorious Phoenix Lights sighting in 1997, but the U.S. Air Force was quick to deny such rumors and theories. According to the officials, these lights were simply F-16s flying in military operating areas. But as most UFO sightings go, this explanation was not enough for the townspeople. The Texas natives claimed to have seen such a highly advanced event that it simply could not have been done by human-made technologies and abilities. Number 2. Japan Airlines Flight 1609. When an airplane pilot who has more than 10,000 hours of flight experience says he saw something strange, you know it's a credible source. On November 17, 1986, a large Japanese Boeing cargo plane was flying from Paris to Tokyo when a sudden beam of light appeared on the left side of his plane. The object seemed as though it had glowing nozzles attached. What was initially thought to be a military aircraft was soon thought to be not of this world, as the flying object's projections changed. According to the pilot and the cabin crew, this UFO defied all laws of gravity, moving in such a way that would be impossible for man-made crafts. As the objects flew closer to the Japanese plane, the entire cabin was illuminated by sudden light and intense heat. All passengers recall the incident in the same way, and a logical answer still is hard to find. Before we move on to number 1, several celebrities claim to have seen UFOs. Let's take a look at 2 quick honorable mentions of celebrity UFO sightings. Honorable mention 1, Russell Crowe. The Australian actor Russell Crowe, who has won an Academy Award for the film Gladiator, is adamant that what he saw with his own 2 eyes could only be a UFO. Crowe tweeted, "A friend and I set up the camera to capture fruit bats rising from botanic gardens. This was a big surprise," and included pictures of a bright yellow-red aircraft up in the sky. The mysterious object in the sky is seen to be casting a downward light to the ground, and while the actor claims the footage is a time-lapse of the event, the evidence seems like regular still pictures, even though many speculations arose from Crowe's tweets, some even calling it a publicity hoax. There is no denying that stranger sightings have been reported in the past. Honorable mention 2, Robbie Williams. The energetic and eccentric British singer and former Take That member, Robbie Williams, is also no stranger to unidentified flying objects. While speaking to 60 Minutes Australia, the singer opened up about his frequent experiences with the extraterrestrial phenomena. Not only has Robbie witnessed strange things in his homeland, but he has had a fair share of unusual sightings in the US as well. Williams remembers how he saw a UFO right above his house, so close to the ground that if he threw a tennis ball up, it would have hit the aircraft. And while Robbie has had many experiences with alcohol and drugs in the past, the British singer claims there were no substances involved during these extraterrestrial events.
You know, I've seen one.
Number 1. Roswell UFO Incident. Regarded as the most talked about and famous UFO encounter is the Roswell incident in 1947. In the summer of 1947, W.W. Mac Brazel discovered mysterious debris on his New Mexico land. After the farmer reported findings of metallic rods and chunks of paper scraps to nearby Roswell Army Air Force Base, headlines were written claiming a flying saucer crashed into the city. As national headlines and stories rained havoc amongst the feared public, official statements were soon released, claiming the scraps and pieces were from a weather balloon Mac had made himself. These statements weren't enough for the general public to leave this mystery alone, and nearly 30 years later a 231-page report was released, disclosing the truth about the event. According to the Air Force, what Mac saw on his land were parts of a top-secret military endeavor called Project Mogul, which was set out to detect Soviet nuclear equipment during the Cold War. And while the enormous report had to be enough evidence to settle the UFO case, many eyewitnesses claim they saw alien bodies being taken from the site, leaving even more conspiracy theories open. To this day, the 1947 UFO incident remains the most talked about extraterrestrial event. Subscribe to Top 5s for more and check out some of our other popular videos.